I did a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Scarlet using only starters, and thanks to the DLC, I get access to all of them. Which is good because in a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's dead forever. And this ended up being the highest death run on the channel. Now starting with 27 encounters would be a bit broken, so instead I'm going to spin a wheel after every badge, and I thought it would be appropriate to use the wheel to pick my first starter as well, and it lands on Bukoko. Though I would have been happy with any of the Paldean starters, Bukoko is definitely the best for the early game. Thus, Koko is the first of many starters to join our journey. Though it doesn't take me long to find a second team member, as I ran into a Pikachu while grinding for the level cap, and since Pikachu isn't as OP as the traditional starters, I did leave it out of the wheel, so welcome Chew to the team. Which brings the starter squad to their first gym battle, but it's hardly a challenge as Koko literally incinerates all of Katie's Pokemon, and since Koko soloed her whole team, he gets enough XP to evolve into Crocalor, which will be handy for the next gym. But it won't be much help against the first Titan, as it's a pretty powerful rock type. And with the first badge officially in our hands, we can spin the wheel for another starter, and we get a Turtwig. Awesome. Wig is the perfect answer for taking down the nasty Cloth Titan. The fight starts off pretty rough however, as Cloth lands a Rock Smash that lowers Wig's defense stat, and Razor Leaf isn't even doing enough damage to end phase 1 in 2 attacks. The situation gets worse as another Rock Smash brings Wig down to -2 defense, and Razor Leaf triggers Claw's Anger Shell ability, giving it a boost to its physical attack. With the next attack looking like it might be too much for Wig to handle, I switch into Koko, and an incoming Rock Smash gets another defense drop. This battle is insane. Thankfully, even at -1, Rock Smash from Cloth isn't strong enough to kill Koko, but it does get its 4th drop in a row before Koko is able to end phase 1 with an Incinerate. That was a crazy phase 1 battle, but thankfully for phase 2, Arven is here to back us up, and this is comforting, especially after Cloth lands its 5th defense drop from Rock Smash onto Wig on turn 1. Seriously, what is happening here? Arven's Shelter gives the crab a taste of his own medicine as he lowers its defense with Leer, and Wig hits a crit Razor Leaf, leaving the Titan at just above half HP. Cloth then uses Block to trap Wig in the battle, which could be bad news because this means we can't switch out to reset the defense drops. Arven's Shelter then heals Wig with Life Dew, and his Razor Leaf leaves Cloth with half HP, but this does trigger Anger Shell again, making it a much bigger threat. Thankfully, again, it just targets Shelter with a Rock Tomb, so a Water Gun and Razor Leaf combo can finally finish off the Titan, and just look at Wig's adorable victory dance. God, this is just my favorite part of any Scarlet and Violet playthrough. I love these little dances they do, they're just so freaking cute. Now, I did get a new badge, so I could spin the wheel for a new starter, but I'm pretty confident that Koko and Wig could easily take down Brassius, and that confidence is not unfounded as Brassius leads with the extremely weak Petilil, which gets incinerated by, well, Incinerate. And the only threat his Smoliv poses is a potential choking hazard, but Koko is over the age of 3, so it's another easy one-shot. Well, that's embarrassing, but not nearly as embarrassing as Smoliv's tackle. Look at that, pathetic damage output. Well, Koko quickly cleans up the KO, and now Brassius' first and only threat enters the field. Thankfully, it does get rid of its rock type by terastallizing, but Incinerate still only does around half as it retaliates with a Terra boosted Trailblaze, boosting its speed and doing a relatively good chunk of damage. However, even with the speed boost, Koko still outspeeds and finishes Sudowoodo off with a second Incinerate, and with a new badge in hand, and with a pretty tough battle coming up, I spin the wheel twice. The first spin lands on Squirtle, and the second on Cyndaquil. So Toys the Water-Oodle and Quill the Koalava both join the team, and Wig evolves into Grottle. The team has just gotten a huge power boost, but I don't have any clear answers for this massive Sky Turkey. Well, except for Chew the Pikachu, who outspeeds and starts the battle with a powerful Thunderbolt, but Bombardier retaliates with a Pluck, which does just as much damage, despite Chew resisting the hit, but it does trigger Chew's static, which comes in handy as a second Thunderbolt fails to KO. But Bombardier gets paralyzed, and so Chew can freely finish off the battle with a Draining Kiss, giving Chew some very valuable HP back, as this is the only Titan you can't heal between phases for. So Chew starts phase 2 with chunked HP, but at least Arven is here to help. Bombardier starts the fight with a Torment onto Chew, allowing him to hit a free Thunderbolt for a good quarter chunk of its HP. Arven doesn't take advantage of the free turn as Nacli just sets up a Rock Polish. Turn 2, Bombardier targets Nacli with the Torment as well, and since Chew can't use Thunderbolt, he uses Draining Kiss instead, which still does a good amount of damage, and if Nacli uses Smackdown, maybe we can finish the battle. But no, it uses Rock Polish instead. Thankfully, Chew just has to shake off a powerful Pluck before ending the battle with one more Thunderbolt, earning us a new badge and a new starter, which ends up being Litten. This is one of the best starters thanks to its hidden ability Intimidate, so it's a very welcomed addition to the team, especially against the first Team Star boss Giacomo. Now I can't lead the battle with Tora because of Giacomo's Pawnyard, which has the ability Defiant, so Intimidate would only lead to it getting an attack boost, so instead I lead with Quill for his very first battle. Quill isn't able to one-shot with Flame Wheel, but he does end up burning Pawnyard, which means the incoming Aerial Ace does barely any damage, and a second Flame Wheel takes it down. This leaves Giacomo with his Starmobile. Now Quill isn't going to be doing like any crazy damage or anything, but he can hinder its stats a little bit. The Starmobile does outspeed and lowers Quill's special defense with Metal Sound, as Quill lowers its accuracy with Smokescreen. Unfortunately, the Smokescreen wasn't enough for the Starmobile to miss its Snarl, which leaves Quill on just 8 HP as a Leer lowers its defense. Now I don't want Quill to die, so I switch into Tora, who lowers the Starmobile's attack stat with Intimidate. Sadly, it does go for the special attack Snarl anyway, doing decent damage to my poor Tora. Giacomo is a bit of a Metal Sound abuser, so Tora's special defense is now at -2, as Tora retaliates with a double kick, which is good chip if nothing else. I want to keep Tora healthy, so I do switch into Wig, who shakes off a Snarl on the switch. And then Quill's Smokescreen finally comes in handy as the Starmobile misses its next Snarl, allowing Wig to land a soft Razor Leaf. Sadly, it does land a Snarl on the next turn, but Wig's Razor Leaf finally brings it below half HP. We then get pretty lucky as Wig dodges 2 more Snarls, allowing him to freely bring it down into kill range. So after living another Snarl with just 7 HP, Wig finishes the fight with one last Razor Leaf, defeating our first Team Star boss. And with a new badge, Mega the Bayleaf joins the team, and I'm pretty excited to use the Chikorita line as it's one of my favorite starters. Now normally I'd show you the battle against Nemona and Mega evolving into Bayleaf and all that jazz, but this is all I recorded. This goes on for 24 minutes. I'm a good YouTuber, I promise. Don't worry, you'll get to see Mega in action very soon, but for now I have to challenge Iono for my 3rd gym badge. This fight is always super painful, so I came up with a plan to try and make it easier. So Iono leads with Wattrel and I lead with Chew. Wattrel gets walled pretty hard by Chew as he resists both Spark and Pluck, allowing Chew to spam nasty plots until he's at max special attack. And then he can boost his speed with agility. But, Draining Kiss doesn't even one-shot Wattrel. This might not be any easier than I thought. Well, another Draining Kiss can finish it off, which brings in Iono's Luxio, and just like Wattrel, it takes 2 Draining Kisses to KO. But the healing from Draining Kiss keeps Chew nice and healthy. Belly Bolt is next, and while it does take a while, Chew is able to KO it with 4 Draining Kisses, leaving Iono with her final Pokemon and Ace Miss Magius. This is the main battle of the fight, and well, Chew's Draining Kiss does barely any damage as it confuses my poor little rat. And of course, Chew hits himself before being smacked by a Hex on the next turn. Even if Chew didn't hit himself, he doesn't do enough damage to heal and survive a Hex, so I switch into Mega. While Mega does tank the Hex a lot better, he really isn't doing any damage with Magical Leaf. But his bulk does let him hit 3 attacks before having to switch, which was enough to bring Miss Magius below half HP. I switch into Tora, but Hex does way more damage than I thought, so I have to instantly switch again as I bring in Wig, who does get confused on the switch. A Hex then half shots my poor turtle, but Wig, the goat, doesn't hit himself in confusion. This means he can land a Razor Leaf to finally KO Miss Magius. Woo! Yippee! We did it. That was harder than I expected it to be. And with Iona defeated, I can move on to the easiest battles of the run. We all know how easy these next battles are, so let me use this time to ask you a question. Who was your first starter? Mine was actually Charmander in Leaf Green, and I was so stupid that I didn't know how to use the PC, so I never switched out Charizard, which also meant I got soft locked because I couldn't use HMs like Surf, because my team was Charizard, Pidgey, and 4 Rattars. So I just sat there grinding over and over again until I eventually figured out how to do what I needed after watching a Leroy playthrough. But then Charizard was like level 95 and swept the rest of the game. To be a child without self-imposed rules. And look, by the time it took me to finish that story, we've beaten Mela and Orthworm. And with those 3 new badges, we can add Wacky the Thwacky, Obble the Drizzle, and Prem the Poplio. Also guys, if you are enjoying the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, it really helps. Now I did get a new grass type in Wacky, but for the battle against Kofu, I decided to use one of the OGs. So I led the fight against his Veluza with Wig. Now these games love giving pluck to any Pokemon that can learn it, so Wig does get chunked pretty hard, but he's still able to set up a curse. This not only boosts his attack, but also his defense, which means with each curse, Pluck is doing less and less damage. Now I did teach Wig Protect, so I could use it between each curse, so I get the most amount of healing possible with leftovers. But I misclick, so Veluza hits a second Pluck as Wig gets to +2. Now this isn't too much of a problem since Wig is back to green HP after a Protect on the next turn, it's just not optimal. Unfortunately, Veluza then hits Wig with a critical hit slash, ignoring Wig's +2 defense. Thankfully, Wig is just naturally tanky, so he eats up the hit and gets up to +3. That crit did change the momentum of the fight, so after another turn of leftovers healing, I opt to use Mega Drain to give Wig just a bit more healing. This is enough to bring Wig back into the green. So I get greedy and set up a 4th curse. But this time Veluza crits with Pluck, which brings Wig down to just 11 HP. Holy, that was super close. Well, with +4 defense, I just have to let Wig heal with Protect, and then Mega Drain can bring Wig back up to 36 HP, and one more Giga Drain finally takes down the Pluck abusing fish. Kofu's Wugtrio is next, but it's pretty pathetic, so Wig gives it a quick suck to get some quick healing before hitting it with a Trailblaze for the KO. This leaves Kofu with his ace, but thanks to the curses, the slam does pitiful damage before it gets one-shot by another Trailblaze, winning me another badge. This brings me to the most dreadful battle of any Pokemon game, and of course that's the battle against Team Star Atticus, the poison type annoyance. So hopefully I roll a good Pokemon to take on this fight. Well, welcome Ivy the Servine. She will not be useful against Atticus. Thankfully Wig is here to pick up the slack for the team, as he's one of the few starters that evolves at level 32, and he's the only starter of 2 that evolves into a ground type. This combined with him learning Earthquake upon evolving is going to make him essential for defeating Atticus. But remember when I mentioned this Nuzlocke would result in a lot of deaths? Well, this is where it begins. Atticus leads with Skuntank and I lead with Wig. Sadly, Skuntank outspeeds and badly poisons Wig with a Toxic, and I forgot to give him a Petra Berry, so it's going to stick until the end of the fight. Thankfully, Earthquake does one-shot, avoiding a boosted Venoshock. Muck replaces Skuntank, and it also outspeeds and hits a nasty Sludge Wave as Earthquake fails to OHKO. This means Wig has to tank a second Sludge Wave before finishing Muck off. but Wig is left at just 17 HP after the poison damage. So even though he has a 4 times advantage against Reverum, I'm forced to switch Wig out for Toys, who tanks a nasty Iron Head on the switch. It then uses Bulldoze, which does hurt, but Toys fights back with an Aqua Tail. Toys then shakes off an Insurance, landing a second Aqua Tail to bring Reverum to half HP. I don't want to risk Toys here, so I switch into Tora, who lowers Reverum's attack, but he still has to eat a powerful Bulldoze. With it having lowered attack, I can now safely bring in Prim, who does get hit by 2 Sludges before KOing with 2 Bubble Beams. The exchange between Prim and Reverum did leave her pretty low, so I have to switch once Atticus sends in the Starmobile. But as you can see, the team is looking a bit roughed up, so I decided I needed to make a sacrifice. And the best value switch here is Tora, as he lowers the Starmobile's attack stat before being run down and killed by a Noxus Torque. This is sadly the first death of the run, and quite possibly one of the most valuable starters in our arsenal. But now with a free switch, I can bring in Chew. Even at -1 attack, the Starmobile still half shots Chew with a Noxus Torque, but a Charm is able to harshly lower its attack to bring it to -3. This allows Chew to barely survive a second attack as he brings down the Starmobile to -5 attack with another Charm. Chew has served me well and for a long time as the second team member in this journey. But we have to say goodbye. Sorry old friend, but it was necessary as the only one on the team with more than 20 HP is Coco. And like a shonen protagonist, he doesn't let the big bad villain get away with killing his friends. And so he trades blow after blow with the Starmobile before finally avenging his friends with one last flamethrower. Finally defeating the worst fight in all of Pokemon. At least I get to add the monkey to the team, so that's at least something. With Atticus defeated, the new level cap is now 36, which means we can evolve our starters into their final forms. Starting with Prim, who evolves into Primrina, then Coco into Skeleturge, Mega into Meganium, and can we just talk about how amazing Meganium looks? Like it's a big old flower dinosaur, like what's not to love? After Mega, Toys evolves into Blastoise, Ivy into Superior, Wacky into Rillaboom, Obble into Inteleon, and finally, Ape, the newest addition to the team, evolves into Infernape, who will be a key player in the upcoming match against Larry. Larry leads with Kamola, and I of course lead with Ape, who raw dogs it with a close combat for an easy one-shot. Larry's Dunsparce, however, is a bit tankier, so it survives a close combat. A Hyper Drill with -2 defense could destroy poor little Ape, but it just uses Glare, which does paralyze, but a held Lumberry cures it, and a Mach Punch finishes it off. Larry is left with his Ace Staraptor, who lowers Ape's attack with Intimidate, which means close combat is no longer an option, so I switch out Ape for Coco. Even with Aerial Ace doing neutral damage, it still hits Coco quite hard on the switch, and a second Aerial Ace even brings Coco below half HP as we retaliate with a Torch Song, which doesn't even half shot. But it does give Coco a special attack boost, so after tanking a third Aerial Ace, a +1 Flamethrower is enough to finish off Larry's last Pokemon, earning me my 5th gym badge. Before I can spin the wheel, Nemona friggin' pulls up and jumps me, forcing me into a battle. Thankfully, Ape can destroy her first 3 Pokemon with raw close combats. Her Meowscarada can probably live an attack and kill Ape, so I bring in Coco on a slash, and then 2 Torch Songs takes it down. And now I can spin the wheel and it lands on Mudkip. Well, there isn't much to do but to take on Rhyme. And since I don't have any dark type starters, I'm forced to lead with Mega and Ivy. But I do have a plan. First, my grass duo dodges a Sucker Punch from Bayonet as Ivy sets up a coil, and after tanking a slash, Mega sets up a light screen. Mega isn't as lucky on the next turn as Bayonet hits a relatively weak Sucker Punch, while Ivy sets up a second coil and Mimikyu targets Mega again with a slash. Rhyme must be a Johto head because she is bullying for Meganium. Well, at least Mega gets to retaliate with a Petal Dance to break Mimikyu's disguise. The crowd gave the team a speed boost, so after Ivy sets up a third coil, Mega outspeeds the Ghost pair and half shots Bayonet with Petal Dance. Mimikyu then finally targets Ivy, but its slash does barely any damage, and it's the same story for Bayonet's Icy Wind thanks to the light screen. Ivy then finally attacks, taking out Mimikyu with a Leaf Blade for the first KO of the match, as Mega heals with Synthesis for most of his HP. Rhyme then brings in a Houndstone, which barely survives a Leaf Blade from Ivy, as I misclick Synthesis with Mega, allowing Houndstone to escape into the void and Bayonet to land an Icy Wind. Ivy is able to finish off Houndstone once it hits Mega with a Phantom Force, but Mega hits himself while trying to set up another light screen, which I didn't notice, so keep that in mind as I thought I was playing behind a light screen for the rest of the fight. Rhyme sends in her Ace Troxtricity, and I did notice Mega was low, so I switch him out for Wacky. Ivy then fails to Oko once again, but this time Tox is left on legit 1 HP. It just hurts to look at. A Hyper Voice from Tox does some decent damage, but it isn't enough to 2-hit my duo. Well, I forgot about the Omni Boost she gets after Terastallizing. So Bayonet outspeeds and lands an Icy Wind, which not only chunks Wacky and Ivy, but also lowers their speed, so Tox outspeeds, and thanks to the chip from Bayonet, Hyper Voice gets 2 kills. Just like that, in one turn, the deaths in this run just doubled, all because I wasn't paying attention. Well, Obel can come in and clean up Tox with a Sucker Punch, and Coco finishes Bayonet off with a Shadow Ball. So while it is covered in blood, we do earn another badge, and a spin of the wheel lands on Rowlet. I have a special plan for this Rowlet, and for this plan to work, I have to travel back in time to the Hisui region, where I evolve I into Hisuian Decidueye, which in my opinion is such an incredible design. I love its little hat. I'm not done here though, as I evolve Quill into his Hisuian form, and this would be a lot cooler if it wasn't for some certain leaks that recently hit the community. Well, with my awesome new Fighting Bird and P. Diddy cosplayer, it's time to take on the Great Tusk Titan, and this proved to be a lot harder than I thought. Great Tusk starts the battle with Rapid Spin, which despite its low base power does good damage to I, who replies in kind with a triple arrows, which lowers the Titan's defense while doing good chip. The Titan stops playing around as it uses Brick Break, which brings I all the way down to 16 HP, as Razor Leaf just barely fails to trigger phase 2. I'm forced to switch here, and since Ghost types are immune to half of Tusk's moveset, I knew it'd be safe to send in Quill, who phases through a Rapid Spin. I thought a Quick Attack would be enough to trigger phase 2, but no, it's still somehow not enough, and Tusk hits a nasty knockoff, and after the Sandstorm damage, Quill is on just one singular hit point. Thankfully, a second Quick Attack does finally end phase 1. Well, I almost got my 2 brand new Hisuian starters killed in their very first battle. That's pretty embarrassing. Well, I don't mess around for phase 2 and bring out the GOAT Mega, who can beat phase 2 with a couple of pedal dances. Kind of puts I to shame, but he'll get his time to shine later in the run. And look at Mega's happy little dance. So worth it. I decide that I'm pretty happy with my team, so I don't spin the wheel and I get ready to fight Tulip. But once again, Nemona shows up to annoy me into a battle. Mega can one-shot her Lycanroc with Pedal Dance, but her Sligo comes in next and has the Sap Sipper ability, which is annoying because Mega is locked into Pedal Dance, giving it a free boost. Since Mega doesn't have anything to hit Sligo with, I switch him out for Prim, who can wall the little slug dragon, and then KOs with 3 disarming voices. Pawmort then comes in next, so I switch into Wig, who is immune to the incoming Spark, and an Earthquake easily OHKOs, leaving Nemona with her Ace Meowscarada. Now I thought Coco could easily 1v1 it like last time, and it's not doing too much damage on the switch, though a second one does bring Coco to half HP, but he should be able to tank another. Well, that would be the case if I use Torch Song instead of Flamethrower, which isn't able to one-shot, but is powerful enough to put Meowscarada in range to activate Overgrow, which gives its next flower trick the extra power it needs to kill my very first starter. I'm sorry, Coco. I can come in and finish it off with a triple arrow, but that was a depressing way to lose my ace and first starter of the run. I'm sorry, Coco, you deserved so much better than that death. Losing my powerful ghost type right before the psychic gym is super rough, but I do come up with a cheeky backup plan. Welcome everyone to Physical Intellion. You guys just aren't ready for this, okay? Obel begins the battle against Tulip by setting up a sword stance, boosting his attack by 2 stages. Now I do wish it was as simple as clicking sword stance 2 more times, but sadly after a second sword stance, Farigarath uses Reflect, halving physical damage. So Obel spams a couple of tier 4 looks to lower its attack, allowing him to tank Z headbutts before setting up a 3rd and final sword stance as the Reflect fades. So now a Sucker Punch should OHKO. And I forgot about Armor Tail. Well, that's embarrassing. At least we get lucky as it doesn't set up a second Reflect while Obel takes it down with multiple snipe shots. And now, Physical Intellion can shine bright and Sucker Punch OHKOs the rest of Tulip's team. Please spam hashtag Physical Intellion to let Obel know how hard he cooked. And now it's time to take on the final gym battle of the run. Grusha, the Ice-type Master. He leads with Frostmoth and I lead with Ape, who can one-shot his lead with a Flame Wheel. This brings in Beartick, but close combat easily OHKOs it. Hersa Titan normally causes a problem for me thanks to its Thick Fat ability, but close combat can bypass that thanks to it being a fighting move, and Ape gets another OHKO, leaving Grusha with his Ace Altaria. Now I'm feeling super confident in Ape's power, so I stay in and close combat barely misses on the KO. So at -3 special defense, a super effective Hurricane rips Ape apart, killing him on the spot. I can send in Quill and finish Altaria off with a quick attack, but Ape was a heavy loss. Well, at least I can add Kip the Swampert, Bulba the Venusaur, and finally Char the Charizard to the starter lineup. We have a few more battles before we can challenge the Elite Four, starting with Ortega, the Fairy Team Star boss. And Bulba gets his first appearance, but after losing so many starters to stupid mistakes, I do get a bit tryhard. First putting Azumarill to sleep with Sleep Powder, I then use this to get Bulba to +1 special attack with Growth. This gives Bulba enough power to one-shot Azumarill, Wigglytuff, and Dash Bun. And the +1 is enough for Sludge Bomb to 2-hit KO the Starmobile for an easy Ortega fight. And for once, the Tatsugiri fight is super easy, as Prim resists Muddy Water and is immune to Dragon Pulse. So a few Moon Blasts and the final Titan falls. Which brings us to the final Team Star boss, Eri, and it's time for the return of Physical Intellion. Now, Obel can only set up 1 sword stance since Toxicroak is doing a lot of damage with Poison Jab, but this should be more than enough for Acrobatics to one-shot her whole No. Physical Intellion. No. The perfect strategy wasn't enough to win the fight. I'm sorry, Obel. Well, Quill can come in and finish off both Annihilate and Lucario with a Flamethrower. This leaves Eri with a Starmobile, but it gets walled by any flying type, which makes Char perfect for the job, as 3 Air Slashes wins the final Team Star battle. With 3 new badges, we can now add Tepig, Brokey, and Torchic, but they can't replace Physical Intellion. With all the badges collected, we can now challenge the Elite Four. This elite challenge begins with Rika the ground type elitist, and she leads with Whiscash and I lead with Mega. Now the only move that even slightly scratches Mega is Blizzard, so he sets up a light screen. Just look at the Blizzard damage, it's barely even a cold breeze. This means Mega can set up 3 sword stances for max attack, and after setting up, Mega gives Whiscash the Giga Suck for an easy OHKO while healing back to full HP. Rika then sends in her Camerupt, but a +6 Razor Leaf easily OHKOs. The only one Mega can't one-shot is Rika's Donphan, since it has Sturdy. Well, if Mega can't one-shot, he might as well use the 100% accurate Giga Drain, and it does massive damage, but Donphan retaliates with a nasty Poison Jab, which sadly poisons. But ultimately it doesn't matter as Mega outspeeds and finishes off Donphan with a second Giga Drain. All Rika's Dugtrio can do is set up a Sandstorm before being OHKO'd by another Giga Drain. This gives Mega a decent heal before Rika's Ace enters the field, but Clodsire just gets OHKO'd by Razor Leaf, beating the first Elite Four member with a Meganium Sweep. Now the second member of the Elite Four really struggles against fire and fighting types, and luckily for me, Chick the Blaziken is both. and her Copraja lets Chick freely set up a bulk up to boost his attack and defense while it just uses Stealth Rock. Chick then sets up a second one, which does bring him to +2 defense, which is good news because high horsepower is still doing some pretty nasty damage. I decide he can get one more bulk up off, as a second high horsepower brings him to 1/4 HP. But now it's time to go on the offensive, as Flame Charge easily OHKOs and gives Chick a speed boost. Blaze Kick then OHKOs Corviknight and Flame Charge destroys Bronzong, which brings in Magnezone. Normally this ends a sweep thanks to its sturdy ability, but Chick has the perfect answer in Double Kick, which hits twice, therefore bypasses Magnezone's sturdy. And for her ace, Chick hits one last Blaze Kick for an easy win, absolutely destroying this, what is she, like 4? This 4-year-old. We beat a 4-year-old in Pokemon battle, goddamn. And I'm still proud. That's the sad thing, I'm proud about it. Now Larry was meant to be another easy sweep, but I'll just show you what happens. Larry starts the battle with Tropius and I lead with Toys. Now Tropius always uses Sunny Day turn 1, so Toys takes advantage of that by setting up a Shell Smash, giving him +2 attack and speed, but -1 defenses. Ice Spinner on the next turn destroys Tropius, but then Larry brings in his Staraptor. But its Intimidate ability lowers Toys down to +1 attack, and this drop is enough for Staraptor to survive an Ice Spinner. It then retaliates with a powerful Brave Bird, which does chunk Toys pretty hard, but the recoil takes it down. Luckily, Ice Spinner is still able to one-shot both Altaria and Oricorio, which leaves Larry with his Ace Flamigo, but it survives an Ice Spinner. And by survives, I really mean takes like a champ. It wasn't even close to OHKOing. And so it fires off a close combat, killing poor Toys. Now Toys wasn't the main star or anything, but he was always a reliable member of the team, so this was a heavy loss. Thankfully, Quill does outspeed and finishes the battle with a flamethrower, leading me to the hardest fight of the Elite Four. Now I don't have too many good answers for Hassel's lead Noivern, so I decided to bring out Kip for his first battle. And after losing half of his health to a Super Fang, he's able to hit a Rock Slide, which is looking like a 2-hit KO. So after shaking off a Hyper Voice, a second Rock Slide brings Noivern to the ground. Hassel then sends in Flapple, and this is the first time I've ever felt threatened by this Pokemon, so I switch in Char, who can one-shot it with an Air Slash. And so the biggest problem of the fight enters the field, Hassel's Haxorus. Predicting a Rock Tomb, I switch back into Kip, before then switching again into Prim on a Dragon Claw. And after tanking an Iron Head, Prim should be able to OHKO with a Moonblast. But Prim gets flinched. Well, this makes things really awkward, because I need Prim to be healthy to fight the Baxcalibur in the back. With that in mind, I'm forced to switch, so I bring in Chick on a weak Iron Head, and I honestly thought Chick would outspeed, because I think I'm just always thinking it's a +1 with speed boost and stuff, but this one doesn't have speed boost. So I try to set up a bulk up, but before Chick can get a +1 in his defense, he's slapped by a nasty Dragon Claw. And the +1 defense from bulk up isn't nearly enough for Chick to survive a second Dragon Claw, and so he dies in only his second battle. Well, maybe I can get lucky with some Air Slashes and he's dead. Well, after all that, I'm forced to bring Prim back out anyway, who does get somewhat low from a second Iron Head, but she doesn't flinch this time and can OHKO with a Moonblast. Jugalgi comes in next, but a quick switch into Kip and a cheeky Earthquake easily deals with it. This leaves Hassel with his Ace Baxcalibur. Now I should have switched into Prim here, but I was just so scared that it had the chance to use Icicle Crash instead of Glaive Rush. So I leave Kip on the field as Bax slides across the room, killing him. Well, this does give Prim a free switch, and after tanking an Icicle Crash, she can retaliate with a crit Moonblast for the 1-hit KO. Chick, Char, Kip, that crit was for all of you. It's time to take on the champion of Paldea. And my god, does Quill go sicko mode. He starts the fight by one-shotting Espratha with Infernal Parade. An Eruption then melts away Avalugg, and King Gambit sits on his little toilet while an active Volcano sends him back into his Pokeball. Infernal Parade then destroys Veluza, and Go-Goat is turned into a nice piece of steak as Eruption cooks it up. Now, you'd think from here, I couldn't possibly fumble, but turns out, I'm very bad at Pokemon. Geeta sends in her Ace Gormora, so I switch Quill out for Wig, who eats an Earth Power. However, Wig does in fact not eat a Sludge Wave, and Earthquake isn't able to OHKO. Now, it's definitely going for Sludge Wave, so I switch into Pig, since he resists poison type attacks, and I messed up the type matchup. He does in fact not resist that. This mistake means I have to say goodbye to Pig, as he's killed off by a devastating Earth Power. Now you'd think my confidence would be just a little bit shaken after losing a Pokemon like that. But no, I thought it'd be cool to finish the battle off with Quill, but Infernal Parade leaves Gamora with 1 HP and Quill is killed by a Terra Blast. Why am I the way I am? Well, Mega can come in and after shaking off a Sludge Wave, finally ends the battle with a Giga Drain. That went from the freest Geeta of all time to the biggest fumble of all Pokemon history. Well, that was the deadliest Elite Four I've ever had, ending with me losing 6 starters. That's a whole party of starter Pokemon dead. From the ashes though rise 4 more to add to the team. The big one being Totodile, which becomes Toto the Feraligatr, who sets up a few Dragon Dances to then completely sweep Arvid. Man spent all this time healing his dog just for Toto to hit it with a +5 Aqua Tail. You really hate to see it. I'd love to say that Clavel was just as easy, but he actually caused me a lot of problems. The first problem is his lead Oranguru. Toto sets up a Dragon Dance in an attempt to start sweeping, and I did this predicting Oranguru to use Yawn. But it fires off a Foul Play instead, which does a lot of damage since its power is based off Toto's attack stat. Toto can still safely set up a second D-Dance, as Foul Play leaves him with just above red HP. A Crunch can then one-shot it on the next turn, but this just brings in Clavel's Abomasnow, which eats an Ice Punch from Toto thanks to Ice types now getting a defense boost when it's snowing. It gets even bulkier by setting up an Aurora Veil, and now Toto has no chance of KOing, and I don't want to lose him, so in comes Bulba to hit the 4 times resisted Woodhammer. Sadly, I don't have any Fire type starters alive, so Sludge Bomb from Boulder is our best chance, and it does bring it into the red, and Poison, but it isn't able to KO. It then retaliates with a Blizzard that leaves Bulba with red HP, but we outspeed, so surely it's just another KO. But unfortunately, it has Ice Shard, which always goes first, and so my beautiful Bulba is the 15th death of the run. At least he gets the KO on a Abomasnow from the grave, with 1 tick of poison taking it down. I replace Bulba with my second favourite grass dinosaur, and Clavel sends in Poltegeist. Mega luckily gets a crit Razor Leaf to instantly put it down, as Clavel sends in Houndoom, but Prim quickly handles it. Wig then 1v1s Clavel's Amoonguss with a couple of Earthquakes, and Clavel is left with his ace Quaquaval. So I switch into Prim, who tanks an Ice Spinner and then a Aqua Step, but Prim can use Encore to make sure that it only uses Aqua Step for the next 4 turns. This allows Mega to come back into the fight, and 2 Giga Drains wins us the battle. And as for Penny, her battle was pretty easy, so I won't go over it. As for the final Nemona battle, I kinda was hoping that it would also just be a battle that I would sweep with no worries and I didn't have to mention it. But again, some problems occur. She leads with Lycanroc, which is the perfect Pokemon for Wig to set up on, as he uses Shell Smash 3 times for max attack and max speed. But he does also get -3 defense and special defense. This lets Wig one-shot all of Nemona's Pokemon up to her Orthworm. It has the ability Earth Eater, so it's immune to Earthquake and it easily survives a Crunch before smacking Wig with an Iron Tail, which thankfully doesn't kill my poor little turtle. And a second Crunch can finish it off, leaving Nemona with her Ace Meowscarada. Since it resists both Wig's Grass and Ground type stabs, I opt to use Crunch instead. And you know, Meowscarada isn't the bulkiest Pokemon around, so I thought it'd be an easy OHKO. And it survives on a Slither. God damn it. It then retaliates with a Flower Trick, killing one of the run's MVPs. At least Wig can finally go and see Coco again. Mega is my tankiest Pokemon left, so after a nasty Flower Trick, he finishes the battle with a Giga Drain, which means it's time to head to Area 0 for the final battle. AI starter begins with Slitherwing, and I send out my newest starter in Sylvie the Sylveon. who gets chunked by a lunge, but is able to lower Slitherwing's attack by 2 stages with Charm. This means the next attack does a lot less damage, and after 3 charms, it's now at -6 attack. Sylvie then makes it drowsy with Yawn, and begins setting up coal mines while it sleeps. And after 6 coal mines, Sylvie is now at max special attack and special defense. Now, as much as I love Sylveon, I don't want to end the final battle with a Pokemon I just caught, so Sylvie baton passes all of her stat boosts to my favorite child, Mega. Before Mega starts attacking, he sets up a Reflect to boost his physical defense, making him a tanky menace. Sadly, Mega still isn't the most offensive Pokemon, so it takes 2 Terra Blasts to KO Slitherwing. Screamtail is second, but it can't even scratch Mega with Ice Punches as it gets taken out by 2 Giga Drains. This then brings in Fluttermane, and while it doesn't do a lot of damage, its Mystical Fire is lowering Mega's special attack, and if it wasn't for this, then Giga Drain would have one-shot, but it lives and lowers Mega to just +4 special attack before being KO'd. Sandy Shocks is the first and only one weak to Giga Drain, so Mega finally gets a one-hit KO. Her Brute Bonnet handily takes 2 Terra Blasts with red HP, as Payback is bringing Mega somewhat low. I want Mega to be as healthy as possible for Roaring Moon, so I heal with Synthesis. But Brute Bonnet lands a nasty crit Payback, so I'm forced to heal again before finally landing a 3rd Terra Blast to take it down, leaving Sada with her ace Roaring Moon. But the only way it could beat Mega is with a crit, and it never gets lucky enough to land one, so 3 attacks from Mega, KOs, and we've beaten a Pokemon Scarlet Nuzlocke using only starters. This run was a lot of fun, but it did end with 16 deaths, which I'm pretty sure is my highest death count on the channel. I also did a starter challenge about a year ago, but it ended up being a completely different run compared to this one, as all the starters weren't out yet, and I rolled a lot of different things at the start. It wasn't a Nuzlocke, but maybe you prefer a more chill one, so maybe check that one out. Or maybe you want to see the oldest professor beat the newest games. Then click on my Oak only run. Anyway, stay safe guys, and have fun. Bye!